Today, folks, I'm going to tell you how tolerance is poison for your soul. I'm going to explain exactly how that happens, and I'm going to give you a steer in a better direction. So if you want the steer in a better direction, you'll need to stay till the end of the video. But I would say that because that's what clickbait's all about, folks. You're welcome to leave early. Of course you are. And you're going to leave early anyway if you want to. But this really is going to be an interesting video. We're going to talk about the energy of words. We're going to talk about the energy of tolerance. And we're going to talk about if you think that you're doing a good thing by tolerating behavior, I'm going to tell you that it's the complete opposite. The complete opposite. You might think that tolerance is a good thing. I'm going to explain exactly how it's a terrible thing for you folks in this video. So, with that premise, with that little intro out of the way, let's talk about tolerance. So, before we even talk about tolerance, let's talk about language and the energy of certain words. Now, there's a big difference between forgiveness and letting stuff go and tolerance. Let's start with that. Forgiveness is the acceptance and the internalization of, I'm okay with this. Tolerance is the acknowledgement that you're not okay with something, but for the greater good, you're going to do nothing about it in the here and now. And it could be the behavior of someone in the family. It could be the behavior of someone in the house. It could be the behavior of somebody at work. You're going to tolerate it. And why do we tolerate stuff? Well, in the family, you are probably, if you're on this channel anyway, you're probably a healer and an empath, that sort of person, the person who understands what it's like to be someone else, the person with high empathy. And you see the bigger picture and you think, shall I create a scene or shall I just let it go for the greater good? This whole greater good thing we're going to explore today, folks. The greater good. We'll do it for the greater good. I will be magnanimous and say nothing about this. This is where it starts, folks. This is where it starts. There's 100 different ways to justify tolerance, especially as a healer, as an empath. And part of that will be, well, no one else is kicking off about it. So I'm not going to rock the apple cart. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to be happy with the calm of me just having to accept this. We'll do it for the greater good, folks. Tolerance is, again, the acknowledgement that you are not okay with something, but you're going to let it go. And that's the foundation. So that is the meaning behind tolerance when we look into it. We tolerate stuff. We tolerate bad behavior. We tolerate society going the way that it's going. It may be that you tolerate wokeism at the moment. You tolerate dodgy politicians. You tolerate corruption in the government. You tolerate a banking system that's broken. There's lots of things that we can learn to tolerate. And there's some things that we can do nothing about. So let's be honest. Let's go there as well. Tolerance, there's two aspects of it. There's stuff we can do nothing about, and there's stuff that we can do something about. So let's make a critical distinction here. We're going to talk about the tolerance that you can do something about. And what I'm going to talk about is the internalization of energy that doesn't work, murky energy, the dark stuff that rolls around in your stomach. The stuff where you're nice to somebody for the greater good. Then you go home and you sit there and it festers within you. You think, why did I listen to that? Well, you know the scene, folks. Now, the odds are, I mean, if I caught myself, say 20 years ago, that was easy. I used to just let it go. I'd just be having fun in my world. I didn't even see it was a problem. And that's the problem. I was so good at letting things go. I was so good at tolerating bad behavior that it just somehow, somewhere along the line, became normal for me. Because I was super fit, because I was generally spending time with people I liked, because I was pretty upbeat, and because I had a penchant for making humor of everything, it didn't seem even like it was a problem. I actually thought that my tolerance of situations was a good thing. I deluded myself, folks. And it took me years to come to the realization of the video that I'm going to talk about today. It's like a it's like heart disease. It doesn't happen overnight. It builds up slowly over time, and most people aren't even aware. You're not even aware of your arteries becoming clogged for years of stress and bad habits and stuff. And one day you have a heart attack and you didn't see it coming, folks. You didn't see it, didn't see that coming. And that's the same with tolerance. It builds up over time. But, and we keep going back to this, even the word tolerance, it insinuates that you are not happy with something, but you're going to let it go, which means it sits there. It sits there in your body. It sits there accumulating over time. And the more tolerant you get, the more you justify tolerance. There's a point. It's like a jailbreak. It's like a pressure situation. You can keep putting pressure on something, but there's a certain point where the pressure's too much and it explodes. And to most healers and empaths, that explosion comes later in life. And then it's like a tsunami. It's like a Pandora's box of all these years of suppression, all these years of tolerance, all these years of putting up with stuff that you hated, all of this explosion of absolute rage, where the compounded effect of all of these issues that you've let go over the years suddenly comes back to bite you. And it's sure as hell well, folks. If you're now, if you have it in you to forgive, to let stuff go, that's a very different energy to tolerance. Tolerance, again, is that you haven't let it go, but you're going to suck it up. So that's what we're talking about here. All of the things you let go. And the frequent flyers of this are things at home and at work, people, characters in the equation, bad behavior, and you let it go. You may have even tried to change it. You may be dealing with narcissists here, folks. And I've got plenty of videos on this channel about narcissism and the fact that healers attract narcissism to bring out the darker side to resolve things like this tolerance equation that we're talking about today. But tolerance is never good. It's never good for you. It's never good for anyone else either. I mean, ask yourself, if you're a healer, an empath, and I ask you the question, someone hated some of your behavior, but they tolerated it and they just didn't tell you about it, how would you feel about that? Now, the odds are that you would want to know. You would want to know, so you could resolve it, you could transmute it, you could find a happy medium, you could reconcile it, folks. Reconciliation is the win in tolerance. You have tolerance, you then have intolerance, then you have conflict, and then resolution. Quite often, it's a cycle. It's a cycle. But if something has caused you in a situation where you've got intolerance and you're going to tolerate that, then that's where the conflict occurs. And that's where that starts to eat you from within, folks. That's where dis-ease starts. These are the roots. Things like tolerance are the roots of things like cancer and heart disease and a whole host of other nasty things, folks. A whole host of them. So learning the difference, learning what is what, learning what is tolerance, what is forgiveness, what is stuff. It's stuff that sits within you and it will always present down the line. It will always come up. And the only question here is, are you dealing with one or two issues? Are you dealing with 10 or 20 issues? Or are you going to be dealing with hundreds and thousands of issues over a lifetime that absolutely blow up, where you will lose the plot at somebody? It'll be the wrong person saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, and they'll then be dealing with like thousands of episodes of you being intolerant and sucking it up. It will be disproportionate. You'll act irrationally, and then you'll end up having to apologize because you'll realize that the person that you've unleashed all of this tsunami of tolerance or intolerance over a lifetime onto one person. So the object here is to recognize intolerance as it happens and to address it as it happens. And if it's behavior with someone at work or at home, be brave enough to address it in a calm way. The problem is when you suppress intolerance over time, it will always come out as irrational and shouty and losing the plot and no more nonsense. And this is the final straw. Whereas if you address it as it arises, you can do it with a level head and go up and say in a completely rational tone, I don't like the way that you're talking to me. I'd appreciate if you don't do it again. Now, some people will take that and they will run with it. If you're dealing with a narcissistic personality, the odds are they won't. They'll keep drip feeding, and you will have to go down other routes. I do plenty of videos of how to deal with narcissism and the fact that they don't like their own medicine. And if you reflect their own behavior for long enough, you'll end up at loggerheads, but you'll give them a taste of their own medicine. It's usually the only way. Unfortunately, with narcissism, the only thing is to get out of their radar. But if you're in a work situation, then that might not be easy. But again, I've got separate videos on that. The bottom line is that tolerance or intolerance is never a good thing, and it needs to be addressed at the root. It needs to be addressed at the cause. If you do that, your life will slowly get better, and you won't be going home and stewing around the mental game where you've let stuff go and it still sits with you, still eats at you. That's how you know it's tolerance and not forgiveness. It's tolerance and not, oh, I've let this go. If you're thinking about it after it happened, after you've let something go, after you've tolerated certain behavior, then that is the indicator that it's tolerance that you're dealing with. And it will sit inside your body and manifest and gnaw at your inner workings over time until it presents in serious dis-ease, folks. And I've seen this time and time again. So what can you do right now? Write down the stuff that you've tolerated. Know the stuff that still sits there that you'd like to resolve. I'm going to write it all down. Write down everything, every person, everything. And then what you're going to do is you're going to write down what you want out of it, what would be a good outcome. And then you're going to be brave enough to go and have a conversation with everybody involved, but only if they're in your life, in your network. If it's something that happened years ago with someone you haven't seen, then you do need to let that go. Do need to let that one go, folks, because they're not there anymore. But if it's affecting you on your daily activities, on the daily stuff that you do, then that is going to have an impact with you. It's going to have an impact on your well-being, your physical, your mental health. And if you don't draw a line under it, it will only get worse and it will manifest to serious dis-ease down the line. So there you go, folks. I've opened a bit of a Pandora's box today. I know this is a controversial subject. If you're still watching, it clearly resonates with you and you are my target audience because statistically, most people will not be listening at this point. But this exercise can radically change your life. And certainly the awareness of what tolerance is and exploring this on a deeper level. I'm planting the seed today, planting the seed in the forest, folks. That's what I'm doing and what you choose to do with it. And when this shows to blossom, it may be today, it may be next year, it may be in 10 years' time. Who knows? I don't know. But the point being, the sooner that you address this, the easier your life will be, my friends. And if you are new to the channel, you're just discovering this for the first time and you want more insights, you want to grow, you want to learn, you want to re-energize yourself, you want tools for all of this to happen, then I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel just there and like the video and to even comment if you've got any questions. I'll be very welcome to hear from you and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you want more of the same, more random ramblings from me, there's a video just there. Thanks, folks. Don't tolerate any nonsense. Be yourself and shine your light.